Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. If you're not subscribed already, just click on subscribe, it only takes a second. We've got lots of other videos on there. Today we're going to be working on the T140J. Nothing too big, we're just going to do an oil change on it, but I thought it was worth just putting a quick video up because it's not quite as straightforward as you think to change the oil on one of these. It's pretty simple, but there are a few little foibles with the old tribes that you have to do. As you can see, I've actually made a start already. First things first, take it out for a run, get the oil nice and hot, so obviously everything washes itself clean and the oil's thinner for when you drop it. I've got the oil draining at the moment, but the old tribes, the 750s and 650s like this, they were called an oil-in-frame bike, and what that means is the engine oil is actually stored in the main part of the frame that runs down here. The engine itself does have a very small sump, but it's called a dry sump system. So the oil gets used in the engine and then scavenged back to the tank again, the tank in the frame. So what I've just done, I've took it for a ride, got it nice and warm, and I've just got the oil draining out of the frame at the moment. In the bottom of the frame, I'll take the pieces off and show them to you. A lot of people try to get the camera underneath, you can't really see, so we'll just take them off. There's a square plate, it's got a sump bung in the bottom of it, which is out at the moment because the oil's draining. I think the 1/2 inch nuts all the way around it, and that whole thing will come off. Now, there's a pipe runs out the bottom of there too, which you have to remove. The pipe is actually the oil feed to the oil pump on the bike. So, on top of this flat plate, again I'll take it out in a second, there's like a wire gauze around it. That's to stop any crap and bits of metal and all sorts of things getting back into the engine again. It's like a first line of defence. These things didn't actually have an oil filter on them, that was it. This one, as you can see on the front, I don't know if you can see it, it's actually got one on. I'm going to be changing that too. So we're going to take that apart and clean it. It's also a good indicator if there's anything wrong with the engine. The actual reason I'm changing the oil on this is because it's just had a rebuild, so it's due its first service. Right, that said, I would imagine by now the oil's actually drained out of the frame, so I'll take that bottom plate out and have a look. We'll clean that up and then we'll go on to changing the engine oil itself, the oil that's in the engine. Right, I'll get on with that. Okay, we've done that. I've taken off the bottom plate of the frame, and let's just take a look. I'll try and get a decent close up. So it's just a square plate. You can see the pipe coming out the bottom of it. So this usually would sit like that. This pipe goes through to the oil pump on the engine. It's got an external outlet. So you put that on there. The oil is sucked from the middle, which is right at the bottom of the frame, up through the engine, and it scavenges back up to the top. So on top of this sits this little fella. That sits there like that. So the oil inlet to the engine is actually shrouded with this gauze. You can actually buy, like if you haven't got an oil filter on your bike like this one has, you can now buy one with a replacement, which is actually a paper filter. It's a really nice way of doing it. It's actually a bit nicer than that. It's a good job I did that because this one's damaged. I don't know why. It's just got a bit of a tear in the top. It's probably just gone with age. So I've got to replace this. On this oil change I won't do it. I've got to order one. I've got to get this thing running. But it's not detrimental to the bike. I mean, it could let a bit of contaminant through. But at the end of the day, it has got the external oil filter as well, so if anything's in there, it's going to catch it. There was no swarf of any kind in here, which is great news, because as I said, this engine has just been rebuilt. But there was a lot of sludge. So I don't know whether that's just come down from old oil, because I've just ridden it and it's settled at the bottom or what, but it was ready for changing. They're a lovely old bike, but you have to remember these things are really, really agriculturally built. They haven't got the finesse of the Japanese bikes. They're really, they're quite barn door with the way they're built. So I'm going to put this back on now, join this back to the oil pump. I'm not going to fill the engine oil straight away. The next job is going to be to remove the sump bung on the engine itself. That's going to come out, there'll be a small amount of oil in there, not a lot. They say about 1/4 of a pint, but it's 1/4 of a pint. And there's another little gauze on the end of that bung as well. So we're going to take that out, clean that, put that back in, and I'm going to show you how to prime the oil system again and check that the bike's actually pumping oil. The oil pump on these things there's a million pictures you can see on the internet, but it's got 2 plungers in it that do that. So it's not actually a rotary pump like a more modern bike, it's like a foot pump, like 2 foot pumps next to each other. That's great, but if I were to drain the oil out of that very shallow sump, what will happen is, I've got air here, and when you start the bike for the first time, all it does is suck air into this, these two little oil pumps, and they airlock. So that then means your engine's running with no oil pressure. There's plenty of oil there, but it can't actually pressurise it, it can't push it through. I think it's one of those things, I think it would do eventually, but I really don't want to, I don't want to be doing it to the bike, because it means the engine's going to run dry for, I don't know how many seconds, I couldn't tell you, I've never done it. There are two ways you can prime the oil system. In the middle of the engine casings, as you come down the barrel at the back, there's a bolt, it's actually a bung, between the two cylinders. You can take that bung out, make sure everything's clean, and again you put in there roughly a quarter of a pint into the hole using a funnel, and that will prime it. The other way of doing it, which is what I'm going to do, is through the rocker box. You can actually prime it, it'll just find its way down. So that's what I'm going to do. The reason I'm going to do that is because the bike needs to tap its setting. I'm going to put that on as a separate video. But that's the way we're going to be setting we're going to be re-priming the oil system on this bike. So first job, I'm going to put all this back on that I've just taken off. All the surfaces are clean, I've got new gaskets. I'm not going to bore you with that, you know what a gasket looks like, you know what nuts and bolts look like. It just slots up underneath the bike. 1, 2, 3, 4, make sure the bung's tight, job done. The gaskets I'm using are quite interesting. They've actually been infused with carbon fibre fibres, and they're made of like a rubbery, a bit like a modern head gasket. Yeah, they're a really good quality gasket, not even expensive. Better than the cardboard things are cleaned off here, which were leaking. So theoretically, now I should be able to part this thing up and avoid to have a pool of oil underneath it. But it's the first time I've used them, so we'll see. Right, I'm going to put this back in, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we've got the sump bung out of the engine now. As you can see, it's actually, what was it, 13/16 size spanner fits it. There's a copper washer around it, which I've taken off, I'm going to replace it. And there's a gauze on the end of it, and if you look in the end, there's a little hole. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little hole in there. So what goes in there is the little pipe for the scavenge. Now, we're going to make sure is, when that goes in there, obviously that's where it all sits. Make sure it's nice and clean in there. The idea is that if anything gets wrapped around the engine, again, it's just contaminant, they're going to get stuck in this, and it's not going to return it to the tank. So, with that said, oh, looks pretty good to me. The washer will be replaced. There's a little O-ring around here too. Now, come to think of it, I don't know if that's supposed to be there. I think somebody might have just put that there to try and stop it leaking. But it wasn't leaking, so I'm going to put it back. Yeah, that goes in there, simple as that. It all came out, there wasn't a lot. All was nice and clean, no debris. This can go back in, and then we're going to take the rocker box off. That way we can re-prime the oil system. One thing I did, I think I forgot on the last on the last part. If you're doing the oil change on that, you've cleaned up all the gauze, the big gauze tool filter, you've cleaned the base plate, cleaned the pipe out, put some rubber gloves on, and just run your finger around the inside of the frame. Make sure there's nothing sat there. I mean, there's like it should run, but if it's really thick, claggy stuff, there's a strong chance it's just going to stay there and like sag. But you can put your finger in it and wipe it out. The cleanest way to change the oil on one of these old British bikes is to get somebody else to do it. If you're going to do it, just resign yourself to the fact you're going to end up covered in the stuff. I haven't even bothered putting gloves on. The best thing to clean up all the gauzes and all the rest of it, I think I forgot to mention that as well, is get yourself a paintbrush and a little tub full of diesel. People used to use petrol. Petrol works fine, but it's very carcinogenic. Diesel does it just as well. You don't need to get it all over you. And petrol's really bad for you when it's on your skin. So all I've done is I've dumped these into some diesel and just washed them out with the paintbrush. You know, it's nothing more than that. So I'm going to put this back in now. Next video, I'm going to show you how to prime and check the oil system's working properly when you start the bike. So we're going to, once you start, we talked before about the plunger pumps pumping oil around. I believe once for pressure, once for scavenge, but what I want to make sure is that oil is actually pumping. So there's a way of telling that. It's really simple, but it's pretty critical. That'll be in the next part. Okay, let's get it done. Okay, so now that we've drained all the oil and cleaned out the oil tank in the frame, we've drained out the oil and cleaned the gauze in the pickup in the sump bung on the main engine. The next thing to do, we've got to re-prime the main engine casing so that when we start it, there's oil there for the oil pump to start and pump around the engine. Now, as I said before, there's actually another oil bung which you can prime. You won't be able to see it from there, but it's just between the cylinders on top of the engine casing. You can't miss it when you can get your head in there. what we're going to do, I've just done another quick video on setting the tappets on this thing. You can actually prime them straight from the top. Now they say put in roughly 1/4 of a pint, and I'm going to use the industry standard measuring system, not to be confused with a drink can with the top cut off, because I couldn't find a funnel and I thought I had one. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to literally pour it straight into the top and try not to get it all over myself on the floor. So here we go. Nope, failed straight away. Yeah, thanks for that. I'll pull this to one side. Yeah, that's the way. The oil I'm using here, I'll show you the bottle in a minute. It's Morris Golden Film. There's all kinds of myths with these engines about what oil to use. Do you use multigrade? Do you do this? Do you do that? I'm using straight 40 because we're not in too cold a weather. I'm not using multigrade because what for? It hasn't got hydraulic tappets. The only thing when you're using a multigrade, just let it warm up for a minute before you thrash it, and then it'll be fine. The only thing I won't put in this engine is synthetic oil. Now you hear all kinds of stories, but at the end of the day, synthetic oil, when that burns, and there's no doubt about it, these engines burn a bit of oil, when it actually burns, that causes glaze on the bores. So if you use a mineral-based oil, it won't do that. It'll just burn, you get a bit of blue smoke every now and again, that's it. Try and steer clear of synthetic oil with these old engines. Apart from that, if you're in a really hot country, you might want to go up a bit on the grade. If you're in a really cold country, you might want to go down a bit on the grade. But I don't think there's any real need for multi-grade oil in here. But you know, it is what it is, put in what you want. But that's what I've chosen to do. There we go. Morris Golden Film SA40 for classic engines. The other thing I'll do with this, I like that Lucas oil stabiliser. I'm going to put a bit of that in. I've actually already done it, if I'm honest. Just to put a bit in there with it. What that does is it sticks to everything when you turn it off, and it helps the oil a bit. Is the thing on the bottle said, when oil alone is not enough. I'll use that. I don't like Slick 50 and all those miracle cures. At the end of the day, this engine is new. It doesn't need anything in there to stop it wearing or to prevent damage. It's already new, so I just want something there to help the oil along a little bit. And I like the Lucas stuff. I've used it and stuff for years. I've never had a problem with it. It doesn't affect seals. It doesn't make things glaze. It just works. So I've about got this in now. I have to go slowly because this is it's quite a cold day, and this 40 weight oil doesn't want to run very quickly. But in we go. He's taking it. And up to press, managing not to spill it all over the floor, so I'm doing all right. Little glob at a time. No, there we go. Comes down here. Wipe it up. It's going in. What this is actually doing now is going to go down the oil returns on the engine and end up back in that small sump we're talking about, the pickup there. So that's good. All that hole is at the back is a hole in the block. It just lets it get into the bottom around the pickup. So what I think I might do is just speed the video up a little bit now because this is getting boring. Put that oil in there, so that's, as I keep on saying it, that's now down the bottom end of this engine, ready for it when I first fire the engine off to immediately prime the oil pump and make sure we've got good oil pressure. Next thing to do, I'm going to put this back on. This is the rocker cover. The reason, as I said before, I took that off in the first place is because I actually set the tappet. It had one that was really loose. It was hilarious. You could hear it knocking just by doing that. Yeah, I'll put that on quickly, and then I'll show you where you put the oil in and how to go on with that. Then we'll crack the thing up. Okay, so what we've got to do now is put the engine oil back in. We've already primed the engine casing. I've put the rocker box cover back on. So we're going to get the engine oil. The oil filler's right here, just at the base of the fuel tank. And we're going to very carefully, without spilling any, put some in. That's going to go in there now. Very nice. I'm going to put a cloth where I've just spilt some after immediately saying I'm not going to spill it. It'll take about half of this, I would have thought. There's a dipstick, I'll show you how that works shortly. And if I can get a close-up of it, I'm not sure if I can, I'll have a look in a minute. You can actually see the return pipe from the oil pump, from the scavenge. And when we start the bike, what we're going to make sure is when it's running, we've got oil coming back from the scavenge. If we've got oil coming back from the scavenge, we know it's pumping oil. So in it goes. See, most people would use a funnel for this, and I normally would, had I bought it with me. So, let's see how we're doing. I'll show you the dipstick here. I can see it, it's in there. Right, that's about half of that bottle gone in. Let's just wipe up this oil. You know, these things are so messy when you work on them. It's almost like they didn't think where they put things. Right, so, oil filler. Oil dipstick. This is the filler cover. I'm going to drop him in there. Pull him out, see where the oil level is. Yeah, that's way above minimum, way above minimum. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move the camera and see. Can I actually see that? Do you think you'll be able to see it? Honestly, I don't think there's going to be a lot of point in me showing you that because I don't think the camera's going to see it. So I'm going to start the bike up, and there's just basically to describe it, this little pipe comes out like that. There's a tube in the back here. It comes from the heads, round here, back into the top of the tank. That's just the oil return. So I'm going to start the bike now, run it up, and see what we get back from it. So I'll move the camera over there so you can see the bike start, and we'll go with that for a minute. Right. If you're interested in how to start this, I've actually done a full video on just starting it up, so probably worth a check out of that video as well. Well, so that was tickling the carbs, ignition on, kill switch on, and let's see if it's going to go. It should do. Yeah, straight away, all coming straight through. Already sounds lighter actually before melting in. That'll do. But when all said and done, yes, that works. It's pumping all nicely, so that means we've got the oil pump's nicely primed, it's working. I'll check the oil level again. And that should be us done. Great stuff, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Go on the channel, have a look around. There's plenty of other videos on there with various different things. And yeah, again, thanks for watching.